What is up, y'all? Welcome back to Marketflow, powered by Thor, presented by Mode. You see the countdown timer clicking away. We've got some big news to drop for frogs, and of course, shit's gonna go down at NFT NYC. You know that. Frogs are making waves. Cyber frogs are bringing the momentum back to Solana. Speaking of Solana, speaking of Thor, we're not going to waste any time. We're going to jump right into our charts here. We finished up our stream on Tuesday. If you look at the bottom here and you look at the time marker, Tuesday evening we were right around here and we were just entering this Thor long call zone. We were actually on stream while we were on this zone, and we said, hey, if we do revisit it, look to enter that long. Use Thor to manage your risk and set up your entry, your take profit, as well as stop loss points. And if you look at this call, it clean pumped through in the next couple candles. I mean, once it found support, it straight ripped for an 8% profit to TP1. It did continue to TP2 and I believe even TP3 at this point. Now, we did expect a little bit of resistance here. We had resistance over here. We expected that resistance to carry across, even if it's just temporarily, right? We don't know yet. But we had kind of two scenarios drawn up for Solana when we were in that zone. We had our bullish scenario, and we had our more bearish scenario that if this is a local top, I believe this bull run is going to continue. I think we are going to smash this. But is this a local top, right? That's what we're talking about now. What's Solana doing next? So if we are to look at this in a bearish scenario, right, we did fill our long. We did fill our long entry. We did fill the take profit points, but it looks like we could be meeting some resistance here, right? That's why I set this arbitrary trend line at the moment, but if it holds resistance there, it could be the downtrend. We are seeing that we could be losing or potentially regaining support here on the RSI. When will we know? Probably when price drops back down here to the 50 EMA, the short-term EMA. We'll probably find out if we hold or lose support there. If we lose support there, I do see us revisiting this range that we blew right through with good round numbers of 160 to 155, right? I see us revisiting that zone, and you see we now have a Thor long call just below that. A Thor long call with an entry point of about 147 to 153 with a take profit point of 169. So you see that entry point is on our longer term support here, as well as the longer term 200-day EMA. So we could very well see that leg down. And if we do, it could continue to fill out our pattern. If you've been on Marketflow, you've watched me draw out my patterns many times. You're going to see the fill, the lower high, reach to the lower low, retest the EMA and the downtrend, lower high, reaching down for a lower low and refilling some zones here, right? And then we may look to refill that higher high. Retest what has been resistance before we break out to a higher low or higher high. That being said, we also have a massive Thor long call down here for an entry point of about $90 and a take profit point all the way up here at 130 with a near 50% gain. So that's a really juicy Thor call to continue watching. Obviously, I don't think that's going to fill just yet. We've got other calls that need to fill first, but it's always a good idea to keep in mind the zones. Another thing to consider, Well, let me continue with this. This is our bearish scenario, right? Our bearish scenario is we do meet resistance here. We can't continue to break up to the higher highs. We do find resistance on the short-term EMA, and we go down. We fill this Thor long call, finding resistance once again, and driving down below the EMAs and driving down the RSI, right? That is our bearish scenario. Now, we're in a bull run. Things can happen at any time. So what we also had set up was our potential bullish scenario. And our potential bullish scenario was we filled the Thor long call, we hit the take profit, we find support here on the EMA or near, anywhere basically making that shorter term higher low, and then we look for the breakout, right? This is more of our bullish scenario for sure, and it is an absolute possibility, right? We've seen many times back here where we thought Sol needed to cool down, right? Here, same pattern. We had our high, our lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then we got the support and the breakout. But, you know, it's not until you find that support and breakout that you know your trend is gone, and it really just takes off. You know, when it breaks out, same thing. We had a little short-term downtrend here that we were following, and we thought the same thing. We may get that lower high, and if we got this lower high, we'd be looking for the lower low in the bearish scenario. However, we didn't. We got the break, we got the retest. Now we're making moves, and we've been on this uptrend, right? Same thing. We may see that downtrend. We may find support and break it. We don't know. What we are playing, Thor's not going to tell you what price is going to do. What Thor is going to tell you is if we enter the range of 167 to 170, then go long and look to take profit at 184.50. If Solana drops below 153 and looks to find support near 147, this is your entry zone. If Solana drops to this zone, then look to go long. If Solana pumps up to 169.50, then look to take profit and assess your TA, right? It's not telling you where price is going to go. It tells you what to do if price reaches that point. So that's kind of our bullish, and that's our bearish scenario for Bitcoin or Solana. One thing I do want to touch on Bitcoin, Big Daddy. We do have a Thor short here, right? We are looking at what was this downtrend, and I'm going to still consider this a down for right now, but I had zones on this downtrend that were my DCA zones on some type of support. I had a DCA zone on the longer term EMA as well as our uptrend support. I had a DCA zone here at 62,000. I bought a little bit. I did not blow my load. I still have bags to DCA in, but I did buy a little bit of Bitcoin on support. Now, I have another zone that I see not much price action happening between this 57 and 52. I think we could revisit those zones. If we do, I have a couple DCA points. But now my DCA points may change a little bit now that I've been given some new information. What new information have I been given? That's this Thor long call and this take profit point that happened to end up exactly on my DCA point, right? So what this tells me is Thor is saying, hey, if we do drop this zone of the 52. Look to go long at the 48 and retest that 56, which was, I said, my first entry. So it lets me know that I was at least identifying valid zones because Thor is identifying the same. 46K. We know 46K was a number for Bitcoin in the last bull cycle as well as this one, right? It is typical of pre-halving retraces for Bitcoin to go between 30 and 40%, right? So what do I mean by that? This, in my opinion, was the first leg of the bull run. Shit woke up. This was the first leg. We're going to have a retrace. We're going to have a second leg. We're going to have the halving. Then we're going to have the giant third, right? So, again, it's typical looking at previous bull runs for pre-halving retraces of Bitcoin to be between 30 and 40%. So if I take my tool and I start to measure down, I see that 52 zone that I identified is right here at about 30%. And if I continue to stretch down, I see right here is 35 for the Thor, and 40% is right here on that 46K in that zone. So you say 46K, we're never getting back there, right? And you're right, we may not. We may find support and break out right fucking now. Forget your silly lines, forget your zones. We're in a bull run, baby. We'll see you at 100K. That is absolutely possible. Again, Thor or me, we're not telling you where price is going. What we are saying is if price continues to break down, Thor is saying enter at 49K, and we're going to retest this zone. Look to take profits at about 57K and reassess the market. What Thor is saying is if we pump up to 71K, look to take a short as we will probably test 67K and this short-term EMA. If we pump above the EMA, we will probably return to it. Look to take profit and then decide if we are going to drop lower or if we have fulfilled our bullish scenario and we're getting our breakout and retest and we're holding our bullish uptrend, right? But keep in mind, a 30 to 40% retrace is typical of a pre-halving retrace in first leg of the bull run. 30% brings us right down here to what I said was our DCA zone, the bottom of our DCA zone. Thor right here in the middle of it at about 35 with its entry zone. And then, of course, that 46 zone, 44 to 46 sitting down here at near 40%. So keep those zones in mind. They may not be probable, but they are possible. And they are possible while remaining absolutely bullish. That's the thing to keep in mind too. Bullish for the long run of the bull run. Now, let's take that information back to Solana real quick. You know, if we go to Thor manual trading and we log in and we go to Solana USDC, we got our drop down menu, Solana USDC, we see there's asterisks, we know there's a call for it. We go to the drop down menu for our time frame. We see there's asterisks next to the 4 hour. We now know there are 4 hour calls for Solana. So, where are our calls for Solana? We have a short now. Okay, things have changed. Oh, no, that's why. I clicked Sui instead of Sol. I was like, what the fuck's going on? All right, back up. Beep, beep. Solana, we've got some asterisks. We know we've got some calls. Sol, we've got 1 hour as well as 4 hour. Here on the market flow, we generally focus on the 4 hour and the daily. Why? Because they are juicier take profit points. One, two, they also have a very high probability of playing out once triggered. So they're the calls that we focus on the most. So if you want to take this long call that we're saying is the next potential zone that Thor has called long and made a call for Solana. If we find resistance and you want to take this call, how do you do so? Right? We make it really easy. If you log into Thor and you see where the entry, just like we were showing, if you look at the entry and exit point, you see your take profit point. Okay, you know where to buy, you know where to sell, but we want to go further than that, right? Managing our risk is the most important thing we need to do as traders. We need to manage our risk, both of our portfolio risk and of our individual trade risk. So this is where we manage our individual trade risk. How much you want to invest in Sol is up to you in your overall portfolio and everything else. But that's a much deeper topic. If you want to get in market flow on stream and talk about it with us, let's fucking do it. But so let's say you want to take this trade. You want to buy Sol in this zone and you want to sell Sol here, just like Thor is calling for. We're going to go to risk management tool, and when you hover over it, you see it says set up trade. So we're going to click set up trade. And your risk quote currency, the amount you are willing to risk. So what I'm going to put in here is the amount that I am willing to lose. The amount I'm willing to lose on this trade is $10. I'm not willing to lose more than $10. This is how I'm managing my risk. I'm not willing to lose more than $10 on this trade. So I'm going to hit calculate. It's going to calculate to TP1, and I generally look at the median. You can do a 1-to-1 ratio, a 1 to 1.5, a 1 to 1.2. Why not use the median of what Thor's calling? Is kind of my thought. So what I'm going to do with my risk tolerance of $10, so I want to take this trade. Risk management, I know my risk tolerance of $10, calculate. So I now know my plan to execute is to buy 0.61 Solana at $147.78. Once I have bought that Solana, my plan now is to sell that 0.61 Solana at $169.50 for profit, or I am going to sell that 0.61 Solana at my stop loss at the price of $131.48 for a stop loss of $10 loss. Now you are free to go trade this on any DEX, any exchange, any anywhere you want, anywhere that's trading Solana. You are free to go trade this. This just tells you how to make the trade, how to manage your risk. Maybe you can only risk $5 per trade. Great. That is your particular risk tolerance. Fine. Put in 5. Hit enter. So now you're going to buy 0.31 Sol at 147, and you're going to hit your take profit point at 169, or you're going to hit your stop loss point of 131 for that 0.3 Sol, and you're either going to hit take profit or you're going to hit your stop loss for a loss of 5. Managing your risk is of utmost importance, and we will show you how to do this with every single trade that Thor is calling. So take advantage of that. Going back to Sol, yeah, let's apply these zones and what we just talked about in the pre-halving retrace, right? The Bitcoin's pre-halving but bull run retrace. We said we can often see that 30 to 40%, but we see other coins often take, altcoins often take up to a 60% sometimes. So with this knowledge in mind, let's look at our chart. So we're going to measure from our local top right now, and we're going to look at where 30 to 40% brings us. That brings us right down here. 30% brings us right here to the bottom of that Thor long call. Right? Perfect. Where does 40% put us? 40% puts us right back here, right on top of 125, which was the previous high of this bull, right? We saw this mark the previous high of the bull run, and it's sitting at exactly 40%. This isn't coincidence. This is market maker games. This is how they play. This is how they mess with your mind. So we know we've got a 30% zone. So my TA on that zone lined up pretty well. Okay, 30%. I'm looking to take this Thor long if we make a bearish move. If we continue bearish, I know that down here, near this previous top, we could look to find support around that 40%. And what do I want to see to let me know when we are there? I want to see this break and retest. Be it here, be it here, be it here. Wherever it is, I want to see that break and retest. And again, it could happen right now. We could find support on the short-term EMA and break out right now. It could absolutely happen, right? The RSI is reset. It could happen. Now, let's look at a harder hit. Bitcoin really does retrace back down to that 46, and Solana takes a 60% hit like altcoins often do. Where does that put us? Holy shit, right in the middle of our Thor long. Right? This isn't coincidence, guys. This is how market makers move, and this is how Thor identifies zones. This is how we play the game with them, not play the game within their rules, but we play the game with their rules, right? So these are zones to keep in mind. Do I think this is probable? Not necessarily. Do I think it's possible? Abso-fucking-lutely. Right? So keep that in mind. So that's what we've got for Thor. Our Thor long for last week triggered perfectly. We're looking to reset, and are we going to break and look for these next ups, moving up to that 230, 270? Or are we going to find resistance and press down to our Thor longs? Same with Bitcoin. We look at Bitcoin. Are we going to pump up to our Thor short and come down and retest our EMA and see if we find support or continue? Or are we going to continue to press down to these zones and ultimately this Thor long call? I don't know. I do have zones, not financial advice. Do your own research. 62, when Bitcoin was up here at 73 and I saw this zone at 62, I said, yeah, I'd be happy with a little bit of Bitcoin there. So when we got here, I bought a little bit of Bitcoin here. Like we said, risk management is of utmost importance, but we are fucking degenerates. So let's get into some degenerate coins. I mean, our biggest channel on Discord is called Degenerate Shitcoin Traders. All right, like we know how to trade, but we're fucking degenerates. We're making the moves. So with this is a view of Bonk. We had said long ago, back when we were doing streams just on Tuesdays, that this was our zone of accumulation. We identified this was a ranging zone, and if we got back in this zone, we just wanted to accumulate, and that's what we were doing. We are accumulating. We have advised to take some profits. Even at the first resistance point was near 100%, and that's just from the top. From the middle of our DCA range, you're talking 100% just into the first retest zone. You're talking 200% into this zone. That's not all the way. You called it perfect and got the tippy top at 300, right? You had plenty of time to make your move in here and get that 200 plus percent. Now, you see I made a buy here. The reason I did that is we are in a bull. We did break downtrend. And this was a new wallet that I had just opened up for trading with Marketflow. It was a brand new wallet I had just opened up. And all I had was USDC. And I wanted a little exposure in the market. And I saw this as a potential accumulate. So I added just a little bit, right? Now, we've got the breakdown from that zone, and we've had our downtrend. When we got down to our other identified zone, which is, let's see how far down of a retrace we took. We took almost a 60% retrace, right? So from there, I said, okay, we're finding support. We're looking to break, hopefully make the retest. So I DCA'd into the bag a little bit more, right? So this is what I'm seeing for bonk. We do have bonk calls. If you've got frog and you've got access to Thor, you can go into bonk. We give it a second to load. We do have some 4-hour calls. So here's our zone down here, all the way back at the beginning, right? That zone is, what is that, 12. So if we go back, what's this zone at? 10 to 14. What's that put us? Right in the middle at 12, right? So again, the middle of our accumulation, look at that. The dot's on fucking 12. This is market maker games. Are we saying this is probable? Not necessarily, but it is absolutely possible. So you see where market makers could push it up and bring everything right back to reset. We want to work with them, not against them. We work with the market flow, and then we use Thor to identify our zones and take advantage of the market. Let's fucking go. Moving on a little more degen, we're going to get into when. When, same thing. We had our zones identified. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I see a zone that I hadn't marked. I see a little bit of price action there. Actually, that was back tested back here. That's why I did. Yeah, that was already back tested. Never mind. Moving on. I see these zones here, and sure enough, same thing. This wallet, I had zero exposure to anything. I saw we had made an insane breakdown, an insane pick back up, and we were looking to break trend. So I did a small buy into when. I did not take profit on it. It moved up 35%. I could have taken profit. It would not have been a bad play at all. However, I was really looking to just DCA. This is a bull run. I expect meme season to fucking go wild before it really takes its dump. So I'm looking to add in. So I look down here on the support. You can see we started making the higher highs, higher lows. We've got our break and retest at this point. So I did DCA into our when bag down here at these lower zones. Anybody want to take a guess at what percentage retrace this may be down to these zones? 60? Man, how did you guess it took a 60% retrace and we fucking nailed it? This is what we do on Marketflow. We work as a team in a community with Thor to educate ourselves, power ourselves with knowledge, and make fucking moves. Congrats to anyone that took this trade on one so far. We can't ignore. We can't be ignored any longer. We got to take a look, and this is what we're going to wrap our stream up with. We can't be ignored any longer, right? Kira has been making some insane moves. Congrats to anybody that was loading up down here in these zones. Just from our break, you see the break and the retest. Just from the break and retest, Kira went fucking 900%. We're currently sitting at 500%. So congrats to anyone that bought Kira. I know the community is jacked. Vibes are at an all-time high. Kira's at an all-time high, and we just got big news drop. Right, we are about to have an art upgrade. We're about to get some other big info. When we see this counter that we started with, when we see this drop down. To when we see this get back down to 0 and we are at NFT NYC, we're going to get some even more bullish information. But frogs and Kira can no longer be ignored. This is a D-Rug project that has gone to more than fucking relevant. Our community is fucking goated. We're going to make our bags. I appreciate all you that have joined here. This has been another episode of Marketflow, powered by Thor, presented by Mode. Frogs fuck. Let's go.